Hey guys, it's Tall Tom TV here and I'm back with another goals video. In this video, we're going to be breaking down the current competitive meta on goals and we'll be discussing things such as formations, squad depth, player roles and types of finishing.
Barnes!
I have managed to get my hands on some top secret data from the team over at Goals, and they've provided me with a breakdown on the tactics used by the top 40 players over the last 5 days. So we're talking about players that are rank 2 and higher, so 2000 or more rating. So, what does the data say about formations? The data suggests that 4-3-3 is the most used formation by far. If you combine all 3 of the 4-3-3 variants, they account for 37% of all the games played by the top 40 players. In second, we have 4-4-2, followed closely by 4-3-1-2 and then 4-2-3-1. So, what does this tell us? The data seems to suggest that players at the higher levels are opting for a more balanced structure over ultra-defensive setups. In fact, games where formations are using 5 at the back barely show up. It would seem that most high-level players prioritise attacking pressure and midfield control over parking the bus. The data tells us what works but not why it works. Therefore, I went ahead and asked some of the top players for their insights on the current tactics they deploy. Murky, who is currently rank 1 on the ladder and has a plethora of tournament wins under his belt, had this to say. To summarise, Murky uses a 4-3-3 with a defensive depth of 54. He also sets 1 fullback to defend and 1 to balanced, effectively giving him 7 attacking players in counter transitions. He notes that this setup is not great for beginners because your front line is spread, making pressing more difficult. He also emphasises the strength of tempo and snowballing. Niran, who is currently rank 3 on the ladder, said this. To summarise, Niran also uses 4-3-3, and he finds the strengths to be building through the midfield and the ability to switch to wingers to isolate fullbacks in 1v1s. Having access to your central midfielders on the edge of the box for attacks for recycling possession is also a massive strength. Alex, who took first place at Goals' only live event to date, the Glitched Open, found 4-4-2 to be the most fitting for his playstyle. Here's what he had to say. In short, it's structured, balanced, and amazing for 2-man pressing. You can pressure aggressively without pulling apart your team's shape. The downside is the gap between your defense and central midfielders once your midfield has been beaten. I found these pro insights to be extremely helpful. It sounds cliche, but the best formation really does depend on you and your playstyle. Recognize your strengths as a player and lean into that playstyle to achieve the best results. When it comes to defensive depth, almost 80% of all the games played within the dataset were played between 51 and 85 depth. There's certainly something to be said for a balanced defensive depth. Setting your depth too low can invite your opponent easily into your half, but having it too high can leave you vulnerable to through balls and fast wingers with all the space in behind. Now, when it comes to shot types for effective finishing, there were 2 clear winners. Power shots and low driven shots. They accounted for 82% of all the goals scored in the top 40. Despite this, finesse shots still seem to have their place, but tend to be more situational. I find the best place to use a finesse shot is outside of the box when I'm trying to curl one into the top corner. Nice. So, looking at all the data we gathered, I think it's safe to conclude that in the current goals meta, 4-3-3 and 4-4-2 are strong options for formations, especially when coupled with a defensive depth of between around 50 to 75. Aggression seems to be rewarded when both attacking and defending, and power shots and low-driven shots are the most consistent types of general purpose finishing. So guys, if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, make sure to drop a like. If you want to stay up to date with all things goals, make sure to subscribe to my channel. God bless and see you next time.